greatest sports debate show on the internet.
Jalen Carter does not dive for his knee.
He grabbed his knee, though, which was
a dirty play. That was a football play.
You don't get to talk anymore.
Football play.
You don't get to talk anymore, sir.
Championship rings, starring Brandon Lewis.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions, and welcome to Championship Rings.
And Josh Ungar.
Buddy. So, who was right about the Indiana Pacers making it to the conference finals?
Well, let's see. Jalen Brunson gets hurt, and Alex Burke gets hurt, and Mitchell Robinson gets hurt, and Josh Hart gets hurt. You have the easiest road to the Eastern Conference Finals this side of the Boston Celtics. So, were you right, or was it the NBA gods saying, let Josh Ungar be the only person in the world to pick the Indiana Pacers?
Nope, I was right from the beginning.
Begin now.
From all of us here at Championship Rings, happy Independence Day weekend. It is July 3rd, 2025. It is a Thursday. As always, I'm Brandon Lewis, the host of Brandon's World. With me is Josh Ungar, Ungar to the Mask, the host of the Sports Room Talk Show. Josh, for it being early July, we actually have a packed show.
Yeah, I remember last week we were like, we'll try to come up with interesting topics. And then the sports world said, here you go.
Pretty much. So let's start with the one that most is related to us at home. It's a big story in the NFL as it is. The Browns are officially going to be moving out of downtown Cleveland to the suburb that is close to me. It's about 10-15 minute drive away. Brookpark, Ohio, right outside of the airport. The Dome, which is still going to apparently have the same naming rights to it, but it is happening. And apparently the Cleveland Browns have 4 years left in the Muni lots. So, Mr. Ungar, the guy who does Cleveland Brown video collaborations on his channel, what your channel is most known for, I'm going to let you take the lead here and talk to us about the Browns. They officially are moving to Brookpark.
Yep. It's not surprising. I figured they were going to go in this direction. I personally like it, not because of the aspect of getting to host a Super Bowl or even the prospect of hosting WrestleMania. It's because of the prospect of hosting the men's college basketball Final Four, because I was at the women's Final Four here when it was here in Cleveland in 2024, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. Like, the atmosphere was absolutely incredible. Granted, I think that it was thanks in large part to Caitlin Clark and the fact that it was her last collegiate game, and you had South Carolina going for a perfect season, but nonetheless. So there's that aspect of it. But, you know, you look at most of the new stadiums in the NFL outside of Buffalo, they're all domes. Tennessee's new stadium is a dome. The renovated stadium in Jacksonville is going to be a dome. It looks like if Washington does actually build this new stadium, it's going to be a dome. Carolina isn't doing a dome for their stadium. Buffalo, like I said, they aren't. But most of the new stadiums are domes. And it's because they want to attract the Super Bowl, WrestleMania, men's college basketball, major concerts. This is the new way in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you. Am I wrong? I thought the Bills, for some reason, was going to be somewhat of a retractable roof that they could put in during cold games. I might be wrong on that.
As far as I know, it's like it's going to be a partially covered stadium.
That's what I thought, yeah.
But it's not a retractable roof. It's kind of like, I think it's kind of like what the Miami Dolphins have.
Okay, I was gonna say that, or like even the Rams and the Chargers, where there's obviously the sunlight comes in there at SoFi Stadium. Listen, I think the bottom line is I understand why people that work in the downtown area are upset. I understand what that's going to do to those businesses, specifically on football Sundays, because some of those businesses do live, believe it or not, for 8 or 9 Sundays a year. I understand the impact it's going to have on our community. I work in the transportation industry. As you know, I already know they are planning on building a transit line. And now that it's officially going to go to Brookpark, I imagine details will come out on that in the coming months. But you're right. This is the new wave in sports. This is the new wave in football specifically. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for Cleveland to showcase major events. I talked about last year when SummerSlam was here in Cleveland, my initial thought of it being a test for the Browns as to how they can host major events in the city of Cleveland, for that matter, major events for when the Browns did build this new stadium. And from a football perspective, let me just say this. We have cold weather teams in the NFL that have domes. Off the top of my head, Detroit, Minnesota, Indianapolis. They have never said anything about, oh my God, we wish we could play in the snow and the rain. It would be such an advantage. I think the weather advantage and the cold advantage, specifically in the winter, is a little bit of a myth, unless you're playing a team like the Miami Dolphins, who literally just for whatever reason can't handle it. A couple years ago, I don't know if you remember, the game was like 0 degrees outside, and a bad New Orleans Saints team came in on Christmas Eve and beat the Browns at, I believe it was still First Energy Stadium at the time. So, like, to me, it's not going to impact much on the field, and it doesn't matter what the Browns do. It's going to be a beautiful facility. They're going to have the best front row and the best last row seats in the NFL, amazing food, all of these amenities and all that. Nobody is going to care if you put a SHIT product on the field. Look at Las Vegas. They're charging tickets out the wazoo. They've been bad for years. No one has talked about how the Las Vegas new stadium has completely transformed the Raiders and made them great and all that. Pete Carroll was what's going to potentially make them good again, not a new stadium.
Yeah. I mean, look at how bad the A's are. And you think them building a brand new stadium in Las Vegas is going to change that?
Yeah. I mean, again, it may, like the first year, I don't care how bad the team's going to be. The first year, they're going to attract fans. It's not that the Browns don't always attract fans, but I'm saying the first year, even if they're a bad team, they're going to get people out of the game that usually don't go because they want to see this state-of-the-art facility. After that, man, and here's the other thing. Players don't give a rip about, oh my God, they have all these great facilities, because everybody now, for the most part, unless you're the Cincinnati Bengals in the NFL, have good facilities. So, like, the amenities and the cooking and all of that and the good food, the players are not going to look at that architecture and be overwhelmed. They're coming in there to win a football game.
Yeah, and the Browns are basically trying to base this off of what you see in Major League Baseball with these new stadiums, like what the Atlanta Braves did with Truist Park, or whatever it's called now, with the Battery and all that. And you've got the same thing with the San Diego Padres in Petco Park, where you have all this great stuff outside the stadium.
Not to get too local, but outside of the major events that I will be very excited that potentially could be coming to Cleveland, I actually think the most interesting aspect about this is what's going to happen to Crocker Park out in my neck of the woods in Westlake, Ohio, because it sounds like they're going to build a Crocker Park-esque mall, or even a Tower City-esque in downtown Cleveland, something like that over in the Brookpark area. That's what I'm most interested to see, is what the heck is that going to turn into, and airport access and all of that. Is Cleveland going to become, like, are they going to build hotels out there, right? Like, are the suburbs Buffalo Stadium is in the suburbs. They don't seem to have a problem with it. It's sort of the suburbs in Cleveland. How is that going to affect downtown living?
I believe the Patriots Stadium is in the suburbs.
Yeah, I know that. It's not in downtown Boston. That I can tell you.
No, it's in Foxborough, and
Exactly.
they have 5 Super Bowls. You do not have 6. I don't care. But whatever. Patriots fans don't care.
Yeah, I mean, and I hear all these arguments, and again, not to get too local, but you kind of have to get local when it's a local thing like this, and we are both from the area. I hear these arguments from the East Side people of, oh my God, it's going to take so much longer to get to the game. Who cares? You're drunk anyway. Take over. I'm sorry. First of all, there's no excuse for drunk driving in America in 2025. We have inventions called Uber and Lyft. We used to tell our kids stranger danger. Now we tell them riding with strangers is okay. Like the world has changed, and I'm sorry, it's not going to make your commute harder by going 15 minutes extra out of the way to a suburb.
Yeah, and we have this thing called the RTA where you can take that to Tower
Absolutely.
City.
And again, as I can exclusively report, because I was in the GCRTA media event in December, they had plans to build a rail line and a bus line, an additional bus line going into downtown Cleveland if the Browns were going to stay in Cleveland. At that time, there were rumors about Brookpark, though it wasn't concerned. RTA wanted to build the line in downtown Cleveland, but they said, let's wait to see what goes on with Brookpark. I am expecting here in the next 6 months to a year, they're going to announce a major rail and or bus project that will lead people right into where the new stadium will be at.
I would expect the same thing. But in terms of the economic impact of this, people are still going to go to games. They're still going to tailgate. Again, it doesn't matter that it's going to be in the suburbs. It doesn't. Okay, the Titans are building a new stadium in downtown Tennessee. Okay, in downtown Nashville. Okay, that works for them. It didn't work for the Browns.
Yeah. All right, let's get to an on-the-field move, because this one, I'm just going to come out and real and say it. I don't understand it. This was one of the weirdest trades that I could recall, Josh, in the NFL in a long time. So the Steelers, they went out, they traded Baker Fitzpatrick, who a long time ago, the Dolphins traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe it was for a first-round pick as well that year. And now Minka is going back to Miami, and in return, the Steelers are paying Jalen Ramsey a corner $25 million a year, and then they get Jonnu Smith back, and Miami, meanwhile, brings Darren Waller out of retirement to replace Jonnu Smith. I don't understand. It's basically a player-for-player swap. You're band-aiding things. I get it. Jalen Ramsey's a very good player. I don't think he's as good as what he was in Jacksonville or with the Rams. I actually think he didn't have that many good years, any of his years in Miami. I think he is a little bit of a diva. I think Minka Fitzpatrick is more of a locker room leader than Jalen Ramsey. And it does feel like, and I hate to make this comparison for poor Steelers fans, but they're going down the fucking Jets route from last year.
And when Jalen Ramsey was with the Rams, who did he have issues with? Remind me of that.
I don't remember him having issues with Rodgers. Can you refresh?
No, it wasn't with Rodgers.
Okay.
It wasn't with Rodgers. Who was the big wide receiver the Steelers traded for?
DK Metcalf.
Yes. Him and Jalen.
I don't remember that at all.
They did, because Jalen was with the Rams. DK was with the Seahawks.
Yeah. The only thing I remember Jalen Ramsey doing anything relevant outside of winning the Super Bowl with the Rams is when he wore those Arthur meme cleats his rookie year in Jacksonville against the Browns. Seriously.
Yeah. Him and DK have gotten into scuffles, from what I remember.
I don't remember a ton of that. I'm not, you know me, I'm not big into the wide receiver corner, defensive back scuffles. Now, again, they do have Darius Slay, who was good in Philly last year. He's in his last year. It does seem like they're going for it, but I would have liked this move more for Pittsburgh if they would have kept Minkah Fitzpatrick. Replacing Minkah with Jalen Ramsey, to me, doesn't solve a problem. And not only that, but they are still leading the league. I talked about this maybe a couple months ago when we talked about NFL free agency back in March. The Steelers are leading the league in defensive spending. They have a defensive head coach. They lead the league in defensive spending. And for 5 years, they have not gotten the quarterback right or the offensive line right. You know who are the two teams in the NFL that lead the league most in offensive spending? Gee, I don't know. The two teams that just made and played in the Super Bowl this year, and the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. And didn't the Steelers just give their general manager an extension?
I believe so. And, you know, Mike Tomlin's still there, whatever. They might go 9-8. Like, who cares? The Steelers, I know you fans don't want to hear it, and you cannot call me a Cleveland homer because Josh knows this. I kind of root for the Browns, but I make fun of the Browns all the time. I think they're an absolute disaster of an organization.
Good God, yes.
The Pittsburgh Steelers they are the Dallas Cowboys right now. They are a losing big brand. They're basically the Lakers, they're the Cowboys, and there's the Steelers. 3 big brands that all think, oh, they're so good. Look at us. They're irrelevant.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And yet they own the Browns, but that's not surprising. Honestly, to go back to the conversation, when the Browns made their return in 1999, they hosted the Steelers in their first game. It would not surprise me if when the Browns opened their new stadium in Brookpark, if it's the Steelers they're playing in that inaugural game.
Very well could be. What are your thoughts on this from Miami's side? Because, I mean, they got a safety. They still don't have a corner. I talked about it. I know Grandizer very much vehemently disagreed with me about their draft. I thought they had one of the worst drafts of anybody in the NFL. It feels like to me, Tua and Mike McDaniel are on the clock, and they don't have a plan either.
Yeah, I don't get what the Dolphins are doing, but because outside of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, who else are you throwing it to?
And by the way, is Tyreek still getting traded? Like, wasn't that the rumor out there? And then it stopped, and then it picked up again? Like, what the hell are they doing? And they still have not invested in a backup quarterback or an offensive line. And they have, and I'm not trying to be funny or joking here, they have the most injury-prone quarterback in the NFL.
They really do. I don't get what the Dolphins are doing. I really don't. And yet they'll still find a way to beat the Patriots in New England, or in Miami, excuse me, because they always do. But to take this back to the Steelers side for a minute, okay, you got rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick, who was one of the few guys who actually made plays defensively. But guess what? You still don't have a wide receiver too. Did you solve your corner issue? Maybe. But now you have a free safety issue.
And by the way, they also have Joey Porter Jr. Like, they didn't really need Ramsey. I could have made the case. Now, Philly last year had 3 great corners, DeJean, Mitchell, and Slay. Pittsburgh maybe making a case that, oh, we're going to try to duplicate that. But don't you think as a defensive coach, you could take a young guy and say, you know what, I'll coach him. Let's go spend money on the offensive line. They still got to pay T.J. Watt. And again, they still lead the league in defensive spending, and T.J. Watt wants as much as Myles Garrett.
With good reason, might I add.
Like, but, okay, and by the way, T.J. Watt's over 30. He's 31 years old. Like, what are you doing? Are the Steelers, seriously, in 2 years, the Steelers could turn into the Carolina Panthers. I'm dead serious. They are betting on 1 year of Aaron Rodgers. Their old team is a freaking retirement home. I mean, this is like the Jets all over again.
It really is. It's kind of hilarious. But going back to the Dolphins, I know we're kind of ping-ponging back and forth between the two teams, but I really don't get what the Dolphins are doing. Like, okay, let's get rid of Jalen and, bring in Minka. That's great. But just like I said about the Steelers, what are you going to do at cornerback now, Miami? Like, if I'm Buffalo, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to expose that weakness. If I'm New England, I'm like, okay, guess what? I'm exposing that weakness. I can't say that for the Jets because I'm not convinced on Justin Fields. But if I'm the Patriots with what's his name? Drake May, and I'm the Bills with Josh Allen, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna continue attacking that. Thank you very much.
Here's the wildest part about this whole deal. You know what I think is actually the best piece out of everything for everybody? Jonnu Smith. The reason why is because we know Arthur Smith, the famous Arthur Smith, who could not figure out how to use Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, or Drake London in Atlanta. What does he want to do? Use two tight ends. And Jonnu Smith was with him with Atlanta, and he swore by him. So
wait a minute. But Pittsburgh already has two tight ends. Remember?
Well, they have Fryer moves. Who else did they bring in?
Third-round pick, Darnell Washington.
Yeah, but he's more of a blocking tight end. Jonnu is more of a receiving tight end. So Darnell can be like he's like 6'9". He can basically be a 6 offensive lineman. So what I think, to your point, they don't really have a number 2 wide receiver. Maybe it's Quez Watkins somewhere in there. I think they're going to use Jalen Warren. They're going to use that running back, who I can't remember his name, that they took out of UCF, the small little guy in the 4th round. They're going to use those 2 tight ends, and they're going to play basically 22 personnel, and they're going to try to bully you, which is Arthur Smith's background when he was with Tennessee and Atlanta.
I'll be curious to see if how Quinn Ewers does. I believe it wasn't
Will Howard.
Yes, Quinn Ewers was drafted by the Dolphins.
Yes, he was. Which, by the way, he's their backup quarterback apparently.
Yes. I meant Will Howard. Excuse me, but. Do I expect Will Howard to get time during the season? No, but I'm going to be very curious to see how he does in preseason action.
That's a good point, because Aaron typically doesn't play preseason games, and we know Mike Tomlin's the old school guy that plays preseason starters. Is Aaron going to play in the preseason?
I would laugh my ass off.
All right. From the football gridiron to the National Basketball Association court, because the Milwaukee Bucks have essentially swapped out Damian Lillard for Miles Turner, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is not happy.
Well, I don't know what to tell you with this one. I really don't. Because they've tried this type of strategy a few times to satisfy Giannis, and it's worked in the past. When they brought in Drew Holiday and they brought in Dame. Now they're trying it again with Miles Turner.
Yeah, and Miles, we talked about it going into Game 7 against the Thunder. It might have been his last game in a Pacers uniform. I always personally thought Miles Turner was underrated. He's certainly an upgrade over Brook Lopez. I would say this. I don't know who their guards are going to be on their team and I don't even think that they knew what their guard situation was going to be. But since Damian Lillard was going to be out next year anyway, and you are replacing Brook Lopez with Miles Turner, who does provide you size and rim protection, something Milwaukee did not have a year ago, and Brook Lopez was really not even a rim protector. He mostly just stood outside the arc and shot threes for the last few years. I actually think this is not a terrible move. I don't hate it. I'm not saying it's going to win the Bucks the East, but am I saying, do I think it potentially could put them on the level of the Pacers, just not as deep? Like, are they sort of Indiana White? They could be. Like, I'm not writing them off. I think they're going to go in with Giannis and Miles Turner and say, hey, we got 1 year. Let's see what we can do.
That's going to be a fun matchup. I wish Tyrese was fully healthy, but You know that Bucks-Pacers rivalry has been I personally enjoyed it the last few seasons.
And by the way, I think that's one of the reasons why the Bucks made this deal. I think if Halliburton is not injured or Tatum, they don't make this deal. Like, I think the only reason why the Bucks are apparently keeping Giannis and they go out and they make this deal is because of the injuries that have been, including Damian Lillard in the Eastern Conference.
Because, I agree with you.
Let's face it, as great as Dame is, as great as he was in Portland, even with him in Milwaukee, remember Giannis was hurt during that time a little bit. They never really played a ton together in Milwaukee. I remember when they made the deal, it was one of our first shows here on Championship Rings, and we were talking about the Bucks and the Celtics being easily the top two teams in the Eastern Conference. Look how the mighty have fallen since then. The Dame trade just didn't work out, and for the Bucks, they have to own it. And I think they're sitting there going, we may have, at worst, the third best player in the NBA, and our conference is so down, we can't trade him away. We just have to get lucky. I think it's what they're trying to say.
Yeah. But like you said, Giannis isn't necessarily happy, so is he going to stay in Milwaukee?
I don't. I guess my point is, from the Giannis perspective, why is he so unhappy? Like, I think that Dame for Turner straight up actually makes the Bucks a better basketball team today.
Yeah, but you said it. Who are their guards now? Like, who's their small forward? Like, you're missing three players essentially from your starting lineup.
I believe they brought back Bobby Portis, right? So he's back. They signed him. So he's going to be their starting 4, or he could even play the 5. I would imagine Giannis is going to be their 4. So they got 3 out of their 5 players. I think the Bucks are trying to build like the old school NBA, just go out and sign 10 guys for the veteran minimum.
I don't know what to tell you with the Bucks. They're a confusing team right now. But then again, the whole Eastern Conference is confusing, including the New York Knicks, who fired Tom Thibodeau and go, hey, Dallas, can we interview Jason Kidd? No. Houston, can we interview Ime Udoka? No. Hey, Atlanta, can we interview Quinn Snyder? No. Chicago, can we interview Billy Donovan? No. And then and they eventually hire 2-time Coach of the Year, Mike Brown. What?
I want to make this comment real quick, is that NBA coaching cycles are weird. So in the NFL, we know that generally if you get fired a second time as a head coach, you usually don't get a third job. And if you do, it's like Pete Carroll, where you like take a year off or 2, and then you come back and it's like a last hurrah. Like generally in the NFL, if you don't work twice as a head coach, you're relegated to a coordinator for the rest of your career. In the NBA, we got guys like Mike Brown, Tom Thibodeau, Frank Vogel, J.B. Bickerstaff, Mike D'Antoni back in the day. Like, name them. These guys get like 5 jobs. It's like
Frank Vogel get like a lead assistant.
Yeah, he's going to be the lead assistant. And by the way, he's had 4 head coaching jobs: Phoenix, LA, Orlando, and I know Indiana. So, and Mike Brown, he was with Cleveland twice. He was head coach of Sacramento. He was the assistant with Golden State when they won those championships with Kevin Durant. I may be missing another head coaching stop somewhere in there. But this guy is like an NBA. The Lakers in 2011, he was their head coach. Remember when they got rid of Phil Jackson? He was in there. So he's coached a lot of great players. He's coached LeBron. He's coached Kobe. He's coached Kevin Durant. He's coached Steph Curry. He's coached De'Aaron Fox. He's coached Sabonis. He's coached Kyrie Irving. Now he's going to coach Jalen Brunson, who out of all the point guards he's had, maybe besides Steph, obviously young Kyrie, maybe the second best point guard he's coached and probably the best point guard he's had as a head coach. Who knows? I think this is a lateral move, though. It reminds me of, like, I'm trying to think of a lateral move in the NFL when like Eric Bieniemy went from like the Chiefs offensive coordinator to the Commanders offensive coordinator, and we all kind of thought it was a lateral move that didn't make much of a difference. I don't think that Mike Brown is too different from Tom Thibodeau. He might be a nicer Tom Thibodeau. He's going to win you games, but I don't think Mike Brown's the strategist that's going to get you over the top in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, he might be willing to use his bench more than Tom Thibodeau, but like, okay, I don't see this moving the needle that much. I still view the Knicks as, probably a top 3 team in the East, but does this move?
And to my knowledge, that they didn't make one move yet. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think they have made one move.
Not that I'm aware of. I might be missing something.
I don't think they've lost anybody, and I don't think they've gained anybody. I literally thought they stayed put, which is interesting that you think it's the coach's fault when, in my opinion, you need more shooting. And I agree, you can make an argument it was Tom Thibodeau's fault. But if you're going to move off Tibbs, I said it a couple weeks ago, you go for a young offensive guy, like what Phoenix did. They grabbed someone off Kenny Atkinson staff, or you go get, the lead assistant off of, I don't know, OKC or Golden State. I'm not familiar as much with the NBA assistants as I am with the NFL assistants. But, wouldn't you think that's the direction you go as an offensive guru when you move off the defensive guy?
I would think so, but they didn't want to do that. I don't know what to tell you.
He's basically a nicer Tom Thibodeau.
The Knicks are such a weird team. I don't know what to make of them. They're kind of like the Bucks in that regard. I feel like you could put the Bucks and Knicks in that same tier, really.
And not for nothing, but Mike Brown did okay in LA. It was a big city. He wasn't great. His biggest success was when he could hide in Cleveland and when he could hide in Sacramento. I don't know how well he's going to do under the pressure of coaching in the Big Apple, because those Knicks fans, I don't care what me and you believe, the Knicks fans believe they are serious NBA Finals contenders, and they believe that they should be at least in the NBA Finals next year.
Yeah. Have you noticed the recent trend, though, with the Eastern Conference Finals? The team that has lost in the Eastern Conference Finals has gone on to represent the East in the NBA Finals the next season. Think about this. Indiana lost in the 2024 Eastern Conference Finals. Who went to the NBA Finals this year? It was Indiana. The Celtics lost to the Miami Heat in the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals. Who went on to play in the 2024 NBA Finals? The Boston Celtics. The Heat lost in the 2022 Eastern Conference Finals. Who went to the 2023 NBA Finals? Miami. I believe.
That's a good point, but all 3 of those teams did not fire their head coach immediately after. Boston had a coaching change, but it was the year before when they lost to Miami because Udoka was out right after the finals.
Right, because of that whole scandal.
Right. So it took Missoula a year, but all of those teams, like Rick Carlisle stayed the second year. Spoelstra, obviously. It was Missoula's second year when they made the finals. So none of those teams made a coaching change. The only president of a team making a coaching change and making the finals the same year was us, with David Blatt and Tyronn Lue.
Yes.
Speaking of us, we have made some moves. Isaac Okoro, bye-bye. I can't tell you how happy I was to see that news, that finally the stress of watching Isaac Okoro play basketball in downtown Cleveland, Ohio is no longer.
When we made that trade, I think I tried calling you.
Okay, that's why you called, because I saw something late in the day. I was away from my phone. I was at a party. I wasn't around my phone. I saw that call late, and I didn't see you text or follow up, so I don't think I followed up. But that is why. That's funny.
When I saw the trade of the Cavaliers are trading Isaac Okoro to the Chicago Bulls for Alonzo Ball, I just broke out in pure laughter. I'm like,
why? Explain.
I'm like, what are we doing? Don't we have enough drama in Cleveland already with, DW4 and all his shenanigans, Shador Sanders and Dion hanging over him, and now you're breaking Lonzo Ball, and of course that means LeVar Ball.
Yeah, who's already gone on ESPN Cleveland and said that Lonzo is going to be the key piece to bringing the Cavs a championship.
But like, I get trading Okoro, but why for Lonzo? Like, the dude hasn't been able to stay healthy. I get it. He was the number 2 overall pick. I think that was the same draft where Tatum was drafted.
It was. Tatum went the 3rd pick.
But, like, Lonzo has not been able to stay healthy. He's not much better offensively than Okoro, so I don't see it as a major upgrade, really.
He's just coming back from like 2 years of a serious knee injury. I think last year was when he made his return. Decent bench guy. I look at it as more like he's going to replace Ty Jerome, who they let go. The funniest thing about this city that I just don't understand, maybe it's the emotional attachment of these fans, but the Cavs fans that I have heard on the radio or seen on the internet, they are so up in arms about Ty Jerome not coming back, but then they celebrate the return of Larry Nance just because he's from Cleveland. And I'm like, I forgot Larry Nance was still in the league for a couple of years.
Yeah, that move made no sense. I get it. He can play the 4. He can play the 3. I guess he can play the 5 if you really want him to. But I still feel like we need a true backup big. But other than that, like, we re-signed Sam Merrill. Ty Jerome obviously signed with Memphis. But, like, is Lonzo going to be our starter since Darius Garland probably won't be back due to the surgery he had?
For now, and I mean, who knows if Darius Garland is still on the team. There is one move out there that we're going to get to later in the show that may or may not happen. Who knows? But to me, that is the only move the Cavs could potentially make to really shake up their team.
Yeah. Like, great. We signed Larry Nance Jr. That doesn't change anything for me.
The weird thing is, I honestly feel like the team that has gotten the best better. I don't know how to phrase it. The team in the East that I feel like has improved the most, let's say, for the entire offseason so far, is the goddamn Orlando Magic.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Like, I seriously, I think Desmond Bane is the most significant move any team has made in the East this offseason. And is it the effect of Halliburton, Tatum, and Damian Lillard not playing, and the East team just saying we're going to sit on our hands and we'll battle it out in April? Because that's what it feels like to me.
It certainly feels that way. It's weird that Detroit has been relatively quiet.
Well, did you see who they signed? I don't know if I told you this. This was funny because it was as soon as free agency happened.
No, I think I missed it.
They brought in the one and only Karis LeVert.
I did hear about this.
Who I thought, oh my God, he must have loved JB Bickerstaff. What the hell was that about?
That I did hear about that. But, like, you know, in terms of the Cavs, okay, you re-sign Sam Merrill, you trade for Lonzo Ball, you sign Larry Nance Jr. None of those moves really moved the needle for me.
What doesn't make us theoretically maybe like 1% better off the bench? Maybe. I mean, maybe. You know, if Lonzo can shoot and Larry Nance can give you quality backup power forward minutes, maybe it makes you 1% better, but it doesn't move the needle. But I think the Cavs are asking themselves, do we need to move the needle?
Yeah, I agree with you. But like I said, I'd like a backup big. What are you going to ask Jared Allen to play almost 40 minutes a game? No.
Speaking of bigs, there is a 7-foot guy out in Denver who, after they won the championship in 2023, I said they had a chance to be the next dynasty. And it all blew up in my face when they lost the T-Wolves in that 7-game series in the second round a year ago. Then I vastly criticized the Nuggets and said, there's nobody around Nikola Jokic. He's basically playing 1-on-5. Jamal Murray is never healthy. You can't trust Michael Porter. They got rid of Jeff Green. They got rid of Bruce Brown. They don't have any help. And now they go out and they trade that injury-prone Michael Porter for a guy who absolutely lit it up last year in Brooklyn, who is a tremendous scorer in Cam Johnson. And they got Bruce Brown back to be their lead defender. And I'm sitting here going, let's pray for Denver fans. Jamal Murray is healthy, but absolutely, Denver, you got better. This is big moves. And yes, to answer the question on the screen, they are back in my good graces. And I'm being honest with you, Josh. I'm sitting here saying, if Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown perform the way I think they can, I think the Western Conference Finals next year may reside in Denver, Colorado.
And Oklahoma City, or what?
And Houston, Texas.
Oh, wow. Interesting. That would be quite the matchup for, and I believe NBC is going to broadcast the Western Conference Finals next year.
Listen, I know that this is a little bit off topic, but we can go to it if you want. I think the Rockets are now the deepest team in the NBA.
Really?
Well, I think they're so deep. I love everything they did this offseason. I think they have made themselves perennial NBA Finals contenders. I think they're right there with OKC, and I think it's going to be so hard for OKC to repeat and get that energy up that, yes, I absolutely will follow the trend that OKC will not make the Western Conference Finals next year.
So, I don't know if you've heard this, but from what I heard, the Suns and Rockets are trying to turn this Kevin Durant trade into like a 17.
Yeah, I saw it was like Shams tweeted it. I wanted to make sure it wasn't parody and wanted to make sure I wasn't getting duped because I saw it last night. First of all, I didn't even know if that was legal. Apparently it is. But what else are they trying to get out of it?
I don't know. As far as I know, I think it's legit. I'm not 100% sure.
I know the Lakers are one of the teams involved.
I think Atlanta was part of it, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see.
Would have been a research live in the air, folks. Sorry for the dead air.
Yes. The Nets, Warriors,
Lakers, Hawks, and
Timberwolves.
And Timberwolves. There was an ad that came up on my screen. I was reading an article from the New York Post. So
we're probably looking at the same article then.
Wow. Okay, that's something.
Yeah, like how are the logistics of all that gonna work? Like what the hell?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, to get back to the original question, like, yes, absolutely. I think the top 3 teams in the West now, I'm not going to put them in order yet because I want to see how they play. I think it's Denver, I think it's Houston, and I think it's OKC. And I think everybody else, there's a gap.
I would agree with you. I think there is a bit of a gap between, I would put OKC and Houston, and then a little bit of a gap before you get to Denver.
Well, here's what I go back to, Josh. Denver took the Thunder to 7 games. And I don't know if you saw Lou Dort was just on a recent podcast. Lou Dort said that when they went into game 4 against Indiana, they weren't scared. They still felt like that they were the best team in that series. He said when they went down 2-1 to Denver, they legitimately thought, like, we have to win game 4 or we're going to lose this series. So that tells me that they would genuinely think Denver is their number 1 challenger. Now, whether Houston's moves are enough that they, can challenge them remain to be seen, obviously. But, like, I think Denver got better.
So I understand that, but it's still those non-Jokic minutes that concern me for the Nuggets. And when he does sub out of the game, I don't have that trust in them yet. So
that's where I think Cam Johnson is huge because he can go get his own shot. He was used to being the number one option in Brooklyn. He scored at will, where Michael Porter couldn't do that.
And I understand that. But again, because Denver doesn't really have a backup big, which is kind of the same problem I was alluding to when we were talking about the Cavs. Because of that, that's why I put a little bit of a gap. It's not much. I put OKC and Houston, in like tier 1A, and then I would put Denver in tier 1B.
That's fair. I will say this, because originally I thought Denver was going to turn into Milwaukee, and now they got Rick Adelman replacing Mike Malone, who strangely did not even get offered a job. Don't ask me what's going on there. But I think Denver, as the question says, I think they are back in my good graces. I think they are back to being championship potential contenders, and I don't think they're going to fall through the wayside the way the Bucks have with Giannis.
For me, it comes down to those non-Jokic minutes.
All right. Well, question I've been waiting to answer this whole show tonight. There is a report out there that LeBron James wants out of Los Angeles and that the Lakers also want him out of LA. I believe half of that statement. I believe the latter half of that statement. I don't think LeBron wants out of LA. I think if he wanted out of LA, he could have got out of LA. He could have opted out of his contract. He opted into his contract because I don't think LeBron particularly does care about winning anymore. I think LeBron cares about his lifestyle. Bronny is on the Lakers. He's got all his business in LA. He's just trying to be relevant at age 41 years old. I don't think chasing a championship is his most important aspect, regardless of what Rich Paul says. But I do believe the Lakers have privately told him, if you want to seek a trade, we will make it happen because you are not in our future plans. We are not trying to win the championship next year in the 2025-2026 season. We are going to build around Luka, and we are going to build this roster and get potential pieces for a potential longer championship window 2-3 years down the road from now.
So I wonder how that would affect JJ Redick, because the Lakers hired him thanks in large part because of LeBron. And
I agree partially to that. I kind of think JJ wanted the job because of LeBron, but I think JJ impressed the Lakers brass so much that he was going to get the job regardless. And I think JJ is smart. I think he clearly has control and autonomy over the roster. I think he sent a message to Rob Pelinka in the front office during the playoff series against Minnesota that he does not trust any of the bigs, which is why they went out and they got DeAndre Ayton. I know people are saying it's because of LeBron. They needed a big regardless. We all know that. So I actually think JJ is here for the long haul. I think he will be the Lakers head coach for the presumable future.
And in terms, you referenced it earlier, like LeBron they sent out like a photo that sent shockwaves, I guess. It was like him at a golf outing or something, and I believe his hat said "Welcome Home."
He was wearing a welcome home cap. Yep, and he was out golfing here in the Akron area. So let me just say this: in order for the Cavs to acquire LeBron, they would need to basically get rid of Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, and Max Strus. Now, do I think LeBron, Evan Mobley, and Donovan Mitchell could be a championship winning team? I actually don't, because I think this NBA is more based off depth than star power, and I don't think
you mean depth, not depth.
Yes, I said depth. I'm sorry. I think that's what this NBA is built on, and I don't think the Cavs would have enough of that. If they were to keep Jarrett Allen, DG, and find a way to insert LeBron into that lineup, that is a championship team. But the reason why I want this to happen It's not so much because, oh my God, it'd be great to have LeBron come home and try to win a championship, yada, yada, yada. I actually think this should happen because I want LeBron to mentor Evan Mobley. I want LeBron to show Evan Mobley how to eat right, how to be a pro, and I want LeBron to come back here for 1 year to unleash that man, to make Evan Mobley become the best power forward in Cleveland Cavalier history, so Evan Mobley can be our number one option to lead us to a championship and not Donovan Mitchell.
That's an interesting prospect that, to be honest with you, I hadn't even thought about.
I don't even care if they don't win the championship. That I don't care. If LeBron comes back here and we stink, I honestly won't care. I need him here to help mentor Evan Mobley. I want this to happen strictly because of that. I'll give up Garland. I'll give up Allen. I'll give up Strus. I want him here so we can develop Evan Mobley more.
It's an interesting idea, and I kind of like it. Don't love giving up Garland. I know you and I disagree on him a little bit. Though, like I've told you, I understand your issues with him.
Well, did you hear what LeBron, actually, Kevin Durant, and Steve Nash were talking about on their Mind the Game podcast?
I did not know.
They were talking about the value of small point guards in today's NBA because we have so many point forwards, or we have guys like LaMelo Ball or Cade Cunningham who are like these 6'8" guards. And they were saying you cannot win with 2 6'1" guards the way I've been saying. And they specifically brought up Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland in Cleveland. And Kevin Durant said, you can win with Donovan Mitchell. This was his exact quote. The Cavs are a very good basketball team. If you're going to beat the Cavs, you are going to target Darius Garland because he cannot defend, and they cannot win with both Garland and Mitchell on the court at the same time.
And that's why you saw the Boston Celtics constantly putting Garland in pick and rolls to get him on Jason Tatum.
Yes, which is why the argument is to trade Garland. And I know I don't want to turn this into a Cavs topic, but you could also, theoretically, I'm throwing this out there, you can make the argument to make a call to see what you could get for Donovan Mitchell.
I don't know about that one.
I'm just saying, I am throwing it out there because I think everything right now is on the table. I think Evan Mobley is your only untouchable player.
I would say Donovan Mitchell's untouchable as well.
Which everybody says that, but here's the one thing I'll go back to. And Cleveland fans, you can hate on me all you want for this. Donovan Mitchell, not just in Cleveland, in Utah as well, had good teams. He had a number one seed in Utah. He has not made it out of the second round.
Oh, I understand that. I totally get that. But if you're able to pair Donovan Mitchell with LeBron and an Evan Mobley, like what you're suggesting, I do think that's a championship team. It depends on what you would have to give up to get LeBron, though. You know,
I think you have to give up Garland and Allen if it was just a Lakers Cavs. There's other scenarios people have thrown out there where maybe it's a 3 or 4 team trade where they only have to give up one of those two. I don't know the logistics of it. I think we are very close to LeBron not entering October on the Lakers roster. And again, I don't think he wants to move. I really don't. But I think he would waive his no trade clause for one team, and that team would be us.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't see him like waiving his no trade clause for Boston, for example, or like Orlando or Phoenix. God, the Suns are a mess, though, so good God.
Here's the other thing that I think no one is talking about. There's always LeBron rumors, right? He's the master of social media manipulation. He's the master of cryptic posts. There's always a LeBron rumor out there of something he's doing, and people get all upset about it. But whenever there's a trade rumor or he's unhappy or he's running the show and all this, Rich Paul always immediately comes out. And Clutch issues a statement, and they say, no, this isn't true. LeBron's fully committed or embraced or whatever language they use, yada, yada, yada. if you've noticed, since the specific Cavs rumors have come out, neither LeBron, Rich Paul, or his camp have denied or confirmed any of the rumors, which tells me there is smoke to this.
Yeah. I do think people are maybe reading into, the picture of him wearing the welcome home cap at the golf outing a little too much. I don't think there's a lot to that specifically.
But again, and I agree with you, but don't you think if there was no chance he'd leave the Lakers, they would tell Brian Windhorst there's no chance we're leaving the Lakers, and it would have been shut down immediately?
Yeah. That part I agree with you, but like as of right, last I heard, from reports I read, the Cavs are not interested in trading for him.
Which to me is a mistake. You definitely make the call.
So
I'm not saying it's a championship team. You're higher on it than I am. I wouldn't even be mad if we didn't win the championship. I'm saying he needs to come here to make Evan Mobley the best player he can be.
I just don't get it. Like, I understand the Western Conference is loaded, but you've got LeBron and Luka. That gives you a chance.
It's not enough in the West. I mean, they are seriously 5th or 6th in the West right now.
Yeah, I would
think about it. Oklahoma City's better than them. Houston is better than them. Denver is better than them. Minnesota is better than them. I would argue the Clippers are better than them. I would argue the Spurs could be better than them. I could argue the Mavericks, when healthy, are better than them.
The Mavericks are going to be such an interesting team. They're going to be fascinating. Not to get off topic here, but we will. You draft Cooper Flagg #1 overall. You re-sign Daniel Gafford. Kyrie's trying to get healthy. You got Klay Thompson. You still have PJ Washington. I think that the Mavericks re-signed Dante Exum. The Mavericks are going to be a fascinating team to watch.
Come February. And that's the problem, because Kyrie Irving may be back by then, but will Anthony Davis?
I completely see that's part of the issue with the Mavericks. I forgot about Anthony Davis.
So that's where I'm at with the Mavs, is where I think they could be a really good team. I'm not going to go crazy with them. I think at best, if everybody's healthy, they have a second-round ceiling. I do. Like, I think Houston's better than them. I think OKC's better than them. I think Denver's better than them. We've already established that. But yes, I think when healthy for 1 year, they are better than this current Laker team. And Nico Erisic should thank his lucky stars that he got lucky, because otherwise he would have been thrown out on the street. I mean, sometimes people get lucky.
Yeah. That's no disrespect towards Anthony Davis, but the dude can't stay healthy. So that's why I forgot about him when I was listing some of the other players for them. But, you're going to have Cooper Flagg, like I said. You're going to have PJ Washington. Kyrie is going to be back probably in late January, maybe early February. I still am a big Klay Thompson fan. I know you're not as high.
That's the guy I forgot about was Klay.
Yeah, which I understand why you're not as big of a fan as I am.
I think he can still make shots. I think he's lost always legitimacy on defense. I think he's just a three-point shooter now.
Yeah, he's not nearly the defender he was.
Like, I think he could be a decent 6 or 7 man off the bench. Absolutely. The way this Mavericks team is built now, and maybe when Kyrie comes back, he can come off the bench. Yeah, I want that a lot. Hell, if the Cavs could get a Klay Thompson for that, that's what the Cavs need.
Can the Cavs please put DeAndre Hunter into the starting lineup and move Max Strus to the bench? Please?
Sounds like they're not. But we're going to talk about the other basketball team that's coming to Cleveland. The WNBA.
I will take my victory lap now, please. Please. Because who kept saying the WNBA is coming to Cleveland? That would be me.
You did.
And I would happily take my victory lap now. This is part of a big expansion for the WNBA because we got the Toronto Tempo coming in 2026. We got Portland coming in 2026. Cleveland in 2028, making their return to the WNBA. Detroit is making their return to the WNBA. I almost said WWE.
Yeah, they're making their WWE.
But Detroit's making their return to the WNBA in 2029, and then Philadelphia is coming in 2030. But in terms of Cleveland, we had the Rockers from 1997 to about 2003. We got to the Eastern Conference Finals in some period of time in the 2000s, but lost to the New York Liberty. And Gordon Gund, who was the owner of the team, couldn't support it financially, I guess, was the story, and we folded. And now, all these years later, more than 2 decades, the Rockers are coming back.
Well, we don't know officially yet if it's the Rockers. Let's be clear. We think it probably will be, but they have not announced the team name yet.
Correct. They have not announced the team name. I'm just being presumptive and thinking they're just going to bring back the Rockers name.
Yeah, I would guess so. Now, how does the WNBA handle this? Is it like do they do an expansion draft? Do they just put them as part of the NBA draft?
Yeah, they'll do an expansion draft, but they'll also be part of the NBA draft. That's how it went for the Golden State Valkyries this season.
How funny would it be if the Indiana Fever makes Sophie Cunningham available and she gets drafted by the Cleveland WNBA team?
Oh,
they're basically saying that no one really cares that it's coming to Cleveland, which she got backlash on social media. And Caitlin Clark, the star she is, handled it like a pro because, the minute Caitlin Clark makes her reappearance, I should say, because she did it in college at Iowa, back in Rocket Arena now, that arena is going to sell out in 2 seconds. It's going to be one of the most talked about stories in Cleveland. It's going to be more talked about than the Cleveland Guardians, whether they're good or not at that point. And it's good. It's going to be good for the sport. I think they're going to be supportive. Obviously, I think it will depend on how good the Guardians are in terms of how much they're actually talked about, to be honest with you, because we know that this market in their airways, we'll still talk about the Browns 365 days a year. That is my only worry, is at what point are these girls going to get any attention or any airtime on these local airways that we have in Cleveland?
Yeah, that is one of my concerns, but I don't know. Think about this, though. Not only are we getting a WNBA team, we're getting a women's soccer team also.
We are? I did not hear about that.
Yeah, Cleveland is getting a women's soccer team.
Where are they going to play their games at? The Brown Stadium?
No, they're actually building a new soccer stadium.
Where have I been at in the news?
And it's pro soccer team. Let's see.
A part of the MLS, like Cincinnati or Columbus?
No, but it's funny you mentioned that. Cleveland is getting an MLS Next team, so they'll be a feeder team for FC Cincinnati.
Guardians have some competition, I guess. Luis Ortiz is gonna have to bet on that. They can't bet on baseball anymore.
Oh Lord! But I've been a long time WNBA fan. I'm a Minnesota Lynx fan.
I did not know. Okay, can you tell the story on air real quick? How you became a fan?
It's because of Maya Moore. She was one of my favorite players at UConn, and once they drafted her, I just kind of became a fan of the Lynx. I've been watching them since they had Maya Moore, Simone Augustus, Lindsay Whalen, Sylvia Fowles. They had a great 2-year rivalry with the LA Sparks where they met in the WNBA finals in back-to-back years. Like I said, I was at the national championship between Iowa and South Carolina. It was a fantastic atmosphere. And you mentioned Caitlin Clark. She's actually going to be a free agent around the time the Cleveland Rockers are coming in.
I will tell you right now, there is 0% chance she will hit free agency. Zero. If she hits free agency, this is how big her star power is. She is on the level of Taylor Swift, that if she hits free agency, the city of Indiana will burn down. Okay? They will be more pissed about Caitlin Clark even hitting free agency, let alone the potential of her leaving, than the Pacers losing the NBA Finals. And I'm dead serious on that.
You mean the city of Indianapolis?
Yes. Did I say the city of Indiana? Well, it is the state of Indiana, city of Indianapolis. They're very similar.
You did say the city of Indiana.
I mean, do you agree with me, though? I mean, seriously, there's 0% chance. Are the Indiana Fever going to really Dallas Maverick Caitlin Clark?
I don't know, but,
it would be like LeBron doing the decision, except it wouldn't be on TV.
Yeah. But as a WNBA fan, I'm very excited about this news. Hopefully, since they're going to be playing their games at Rocket Arena, that means more work for me because I already work for the Cavaliers and the Monsters.
Because basketball is 8 or 9 months out of the year. If the Cavs go deep in the playoffs, you guys pretty much have year-round work.
That is true, yes. Because that's what happened with the Pacers. They went to the NBA Finals. Guess what? The Indiana Fever still had home games.
Yeah, now my only question of this is, why is the WNBA waiting till 2028, 2029, 2030 to make these expansions?
I don't know. I guess.
What's this going to bring them up to? Like 20 teams when Philadelphia comes in?
18.
Okay. So 9 each conference, I would assume. Yeah,
well, I don't know because, I would assume Cleveland, Detroit, and Philly are all going to be Eastern Conference. And you got Toronto coming in. They're going to be Eastern Conference. And you only have one Western Conference team coming in Portland.
Maybe you expand it to 20. I don't know.
I don't know.
A good number. I think any more than that, you're gonna turn into the NBA, which I'm also wondering, not to get off topic, but the WNBA is already instituted into the NBA 2K video game. I wonder with Caitlin Clark now, if the WNBA tries to make their own video game.
So I'm looking at the conferences right now. In the West, you got, in the West you have, or in the East rather, you have New York, Atlanta, Indiana, Washington, Chicago, and Connecticut. And then over in the West, you have Minnesota, Phoenix, Seattle, Golden State, Las Vegas, LA, and Dallas. So, again, you're only adding one Western Conference team in Portland, and then you're going Toronto, Cleveland, Detroit, Philadelphia. That's a lot of Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I wonder if they would move Chicago out west and add another or 2 Western Conference teams to balance it out.
They could move the Chicago Sky to the west, I guess, but that would be weird.
Put Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark on opposite sides of the bracket.
That would be weird, though, because, the Chicago Bulls are in the Eastern Conference, and they're in the Cavs division.
Yeah, but the Blackhawks were also in the West in hockey for the longest time.
They're still in the Western Conference.
Are they? I thought they moved back to the East when they did the whole realignment.
No, that was the Detroit Red Wings that moved to the Eastern Conference.
See how much I know about hockey. All right. Last topic of the night. Let's talk about Night of Champions, which I'll be honest was not a great show. It did really next to nothing. It was really a skippable show outside of the first match and the last match. I thought the main event was hysterical, personally. But the one thing this show did do, it got me excited for SummerSlam. I'll be honest. I thought this was more of a SummerSlam building show. We have our first matches set up, and I think we have inklings of storylines moving forward.
Yeah, which I told you they were going to have Jade Cargill win that match.
Yeah, you did. I did not think that they were going to put the King and Queen of the Ring on the same brand, but I guess technically because Cena is going to be on Raw and SmackDown, which I want to get to Cena because I think there's actually a lot of news here around Cena that a lot of people haven't thought about, and that is the fact that he only has 15 dates left.
Yeah, and I believe one of those is here in Cleveland, July 25th.
It's actually not going to be. He's actually not going to be in Cleveland. He's going to be in San Antonio, July 18th, and then he's going to be in Brooklyn, August 2nd, August 1st, and then SummerSlam.
Oh, wow. So he's not coming to Cleveland.
No. So if you want to go see Cena, make your plans for Boston, December 13th for Saturday night's main event.
Yeah. Yes, because Saturday night's main event is going to be so good with Goldberg versus Gunther. Yay!
I was in the news. I don't know if you saw this. I've been in the news on the internet over the last couple of days, feuding with our favorite pal Dave Meltzer.
I have not seen this.
I have been in the news back and forth with him on your favorite wrestling program, All Elite Wrestling, and All In, about the ticket distribution and the gate and what those numbers actually mean. And I have a tweet right now that has 75,000 views and counting.
That's awesome. By the way, I cannot wait for All In. That the card is looking freaking fantastic.
Basically, here's the discussion that me and Dave have, which you're probably going to side with Dave on this. And I know this has nothing to do with Night of Champions, but since you haven't seen it, I'm going to tell you. So Dave sent out a tweet last week that basically said AEW All In is doing historic metrics and all this. And I said, well, Dave, they have a good showing for tickets out of a 40,000 seat arena. They sold about 20,000 tickets. But I said, for you to make it sound like, oh my God, it's the greatest success ever, is bullshit. Because I think even you would admit, and everybody in AEW would admit, they would have loved to sell 30 or 40,000 tickets to that show. And Dave came out and said to me, well, you're an idiot. You don't know anything about wrestling. It's only about the gate number. They have the best, highest gate outside of WWE since WCW. And I said, yeah. You know why? Because the tickets are so expensive because it's called inflation.
Wow. Did Dave respond to that?
Yeah, he called me an idiot. and then I got into it with the fans of AEW who have been chastising me that WWE only sells 10,000 tickets in a 20,000 seat arena, and I said, yeah, but those 20,000 seats turn into about 15,000 or whatever because of the stage size, and AEW is the same except for they're in a stadium, and I'm sorry, for their first stadium show in North America, having 20,000 seats is good. It's not great. That's all my argument has been, and people are saying I'm an idiot over it.
I'm not going to say you're an idiot for it, but
it's good, but my argument is it is your first stadium show in North America. Like, Texas is such a hot wrestling market. I thought they were going to sell 40 to 50,000 tickets. 20,000 does feel small for a Texas Global, whatever it's called, stadium.
Yeah, Globe Life Field where the Rangers play. By the way, Tony Khan has already announced that All In is going to be back at Wembley next year. It's just because Coldplay is playing at Wembley this year.
And again, the first time they were at Wembley, they did 81,000 fans, and I said, that's great. Let's see if they can duplicate it. And I think they only did like 40 to 50,000, which is still a good number, but it broke the gate record. Yeah, because you charge more for the tickets. Like, and I yell at WWE about this all the time because every WrestleMania, they go, oh, we have another gate record broken. They're going to say in Cleveland in 2 weeks, we broke the record for the highest gate in SmackDown history in Cleveland. Yeah, you know why? Because I had to pay out the wazoo for my tickets.
Yeah, and I won't have to do that when AEW comes here on August 6th. I will be at Dynamite, almost assuredly, with C-Boss and a couple other friends.
Okay, I have one gripe to make about AEW. So I saw this last night. They're doing this match between the Young Bucks and Swerve.
I am loving this feud. Don't you dare shit on this. Don't you dare.
I'm going to shit on the stipulation of the match.
Oh my God, the stipulation is fantastic.
Here's why. There's no way in hell the Young Bucks are giving up their titles.
Oh my God. So you didn't see the other part of this then? Because...
Yeah, I know. It's Swerve and whoever lose, they can't challenge the titles for a whole year or whatever the case may be.
If Swerve and Ospreay lose, they can't challenge for the AEW World Championship for a year.
Okay, but my point is if Swerve and Ospreay win, there's no point because they're not. The EVPs are not going to give up their titles because they're stupid fucking heels and nobody watches the Young Bucks anyways because they do nothing but super kicks.
This is good. The fact that you're shitting on this match is just making my blood boil right now.
I'm not shitting on the match. I'm shitting on the fact that to me the stipulation makes no sense.
Well, the stipulation's in place. If the Young Bucks lose, they give up their EVP titles.
Which again, they're not. So either you know they're gonna win, or B, they're gonna make up some bullshit. Oh, we're just gonna have another title.
I'm loving this feud, and the match is gonna be freaking fantastic. Honestly, the whole card looks freaking jacked right now. You got a Texas death match. Good Lord.
Is this Death Rider thing finally going to end? Are they going to send Hangman Page home happy, the big stadium show? That's what it kind of feels like to me.
It feels that way. And these two had a Texas death match back at Revolution in 2023, and it was violent. They were throwing each other into barbed wire.
No, that was not the one. I was thinking of the Moxley Kenny Omega one. I think it was from 2019 when Omega did that suplex on the barbed wire table or some shit.
Yep. Yeah. When AEW does these type of stipulation matches, they get brutal.
It's basically ECW 2001. Again, if you like that stuff, you love it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, I thought the street fight between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez was good. I didn't think it was great.
Oh, I actually didn't think it was that good at all. I thought it was okay. I said I did not really like Night of Champions. I didn't like the last man standing match between Tiffany and Nia Jax. I thought it was one of the worst last man standing matches I've ever seen.
That match wasn't even on Night of Champions.
It wasn't. It was on SmackDown. But I'm saying in terms of the stipulation, I thought it under-delivered. And AEW does deliver on their extremeness. I will say that. They do deliver for their crowd and their audience.
Yes, which I am very much in AEW's crowd and audience.
The one thing I will say is, so going back to WWE real quick, over the last couple of months, we have both called things. You have called Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble when it happened. It did. I called John Cena turning heel when it did. It did at Elimination Chamber. I said Seth Rollins was going to be the one to turn on Roman Reigns, or Paul Heyman was going to align with Seth Rollins on Roman Reigns and CM Punk. That happened. Josh, I'm here to tell you, the Cody Rhodes heel turn is happening.
I would personally like that. When he was in AEW, we as fans wanted it, but he wouldn't do it. You know,
they're going to do a double turn at SummerSlam. The Rock is going to come out. The Rock is going to do his bullshit, whatever you 3, 2, 1, the photo boss. He's going to do the slit throat, and Cody is going to kick Cena in the balls. And Cody is going to turn on Cena, and we are going to get heel Cody Rhodes as the undisputed champion.
Yeah, I can see it. That main event between Cena and Punk had shenanigans city.
Oh, you know what? Charles Robinson, shout out to you, my man.
That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. He's running down, and then he just goes flying.
We didn't even talk about this. I forgot to mention this. Last week, I said there was no way in hell Jacob Fatu's going to lose, is he? I called Haku returning, and I said they're not going to take the title off him. They did.
Yeah. They had Hikuleo debut. They had Tangaloa return. Hikuleo's not even going by that name anymore. He's going by like Tangatoa.
Which I knew immediately because when they kept saying, who is that? They never said his name. And I knew that's because legally they were changing it.
Yeah. WWE is weird with their name changes. Like, let's let Ethan Page keep his name, but Mariah May, you want to go by Blake Monroe? Okay. Ricky Saints? Okay.
Here, so I'll throw one more thing out before we get out of here. SummerSlam, the World Heavyweight Championship match is going to be Gunther defending, not against Sami Zayn. I'm sorry. It's not happening. It's CM Punk.
That very well could be.
That's going to be the night one main event, I think, is Punk versus Gunther. And I think night two is going to be Cody versus Cena. I think for sure Naomi is cashing in on Jade Cargill. I think Rollins might cash in, but to your point a couple weeks ago, I don't know if they want to do two cash-ins on the same show.
We'll see. Good show, but I got to get going.
All right. With that, we'll be back next week. Enjoy your Independence Day here on Championship Rings. Thanks for listening and watching.